when we do live streams, I don't have any way of answering every question. So I was talking to Yvonne about this last night, and I had an idea for doing a video. And then because of videos I've already done today, I thought, no, I'm not going to do it that way. I may save that for either tomorrow or just for another time. And so I want to answer some questions that I know get asked regularly during live streams that I may not have time to answer, or may not get asked because we get so many questions over such little time. So which team most needs? And insert topic here. So I'll go through these from top to bottom, and then you guys can let me know who you think most needs these items on the list. Who most needs the Stanley Cup? I don't think there's any arguing against Toronto right now. So I'm saying right now. And that's why when it says to win their first cup over here, that's something completely different. The Toronto Maple Leafs, their fan base, the team, the organization, everything they're doing, they need a Stanley Cup. You look at everything that's been built, and I know people are going to say, well, their defense isn't good enough. There are some who don't think Freddie Anderson can go through 4 rounds. These guys need a Stanley Cup. There needs to be, and I know for people who watch the Toronto Raptors and everything that went on there, you're probably saying, well, they just had a championship. Yeah, not a hockey championship. Raptors, as great as it was and as fantastic as it was, it swept across the country. It felt like a precursor to what could happen if the Toronto Maple Leafs. That was the 4.3 earthquake. This would be the 8 or 9 earthquake if the Toronto Maple Leafs won a Stanley Cup. They need it. And like I said, the fan base needs it. I think the media would eat that up, and I think it ended up being a pretty good story, as much as there'd be some who would be like, oh, great, now we'll never hear the end of it. And you wouldn't, but I think they need it the most. I think with what this team's gone through for over 50 years, I think they need it the most. Which team needs a long playoff run? So it doesn't have to be a Stanley Cup final. It doesn't have to be the Stanley Cup victory, but at least, I don't know, third round, Florida. We look at attendance in Florida and how poor it's been for a long time. We talk about it a lot. I think Florida, their fans, I think just the organization in general, they need a long playoff run. And when you consider that they added Bobrovsky and some of the other players that they've added, they need that. They do. They need a nice long playoff run. Something that their fans can have hope for the future. It does not have to be a Stanley Cup. The pressure's not the same there as it is in Toronto. I really think Toronto's kind of turned into cup or bust. I don't know that winning one round's going to make them happy. I don't think it will. But for Florida, if they could get to a conference final and have some hope that there's going to be a championship in their future, I think that would mean a lot. Which team needs Lafreniere the most? Which team needs that number 1 draft pick? I don't see how you can't pick Detroit. Yes, it would benefit Ottawa. It would benefit anybody. Anybody who misses the playoffs would benefit from getting Lafreniere. If Philly just misses the playoffs and somehow they win the playoff lottery and they get Lafreniere, it's not like they're going to be complaining and saying, oh, we're going to trade the pick. No. Lafreniere is going to be a star in the NHL, and Detroit needs him. They need that marquee player. He can be that marquee player for them. Which team's most in need of a rebuild? Now, this means the team might be somewhat in denial. And it's part of the reason this video exists today is I believe San Jose most needs the rebuild. I know Minnesota fans are going to say, we could probably use it too. Agreed. But we haven't heard what Bill Guerin's doing. The fact that ownership's come out and said they believe in Doug Wilson, and Doug Wilson seems to be of the mind that, San Jose's just going through a rough patch kind of thing. I haven't heard either rebuild or retool from San Jose management. That makes me nervous because San Jose needs it. They need to really rebuild this thing, meaning pick up prospects, pick up draft picks, be willing to get rid of some veterans. And this year they backed themselves into a corner. And we'll see what they do. But they do need to go through at least a 2 or 3 year plan, something. So it could be a retool, but I've got the word rebuild on the board because I think they need it. Not every team that bottoms out is rebuilding. Sometimes a team just bottoms out, and they're in denial about rebuilding. Vancouver for years was in denial about rebuilding. And it was frustrating because it's like, okay, they missed the playoffs. What are you going out and getting people for? Which team most needs to make the playoffs? I was torn. I almost said Buffalo. And I know for Sabres fans, they're going to say, you picked the Oilers? Yes, and here's why. McDavid's having an amazing season. Draisaitl's having a mostly amazing season. The defensive numbers haven't been great, but Draisaitl's been solid. That being said, They need playoffs. They really do. Buffalo needs them as well. Buffalo, for me, is an honorable mention. But the Oilers, this team needs it. And for the somewhat the same reason as Eichel in Buffalo, you don't want to be losing or ticking off your franchise player. Both McDavid and Eichel, there's sort of this vulture-like watch of the organizations as to when these guys are going to want out. They're not going to want to lose forever. Okay. There have been plenty of players who've been through losing periods at the start of their career, and it's frustrated them. But they come through it, whether it's Yzerman or Sakic. These guys have come through it before. So I don't necessarily expect a demand for a trade, but it is important for the Oilers to make the playoffs this year. And I would expect them to be doing something at the trade deadline to try to bolster themselves. Take July 1st off. Please, by the love of all that's holy, can we get Jim Benning to sit out July 1st this year? And I say that while I like the Myers signing, a lot of other signings haven't worked out particularly well. And the other question mark I have with Vancouver is, if he hadn't picked up the phone on July 1st, if he hadn't picked up some of these guys, who else might be in the roster? How much cap space would they have? What kind of additions would they be able to make? We'll never know. So take July 1st off, please. Thank you. This year's UFA market should be kind of quiet, but I would hope Vancouver just stays out of it this year. Every year we hope that, don't we, in Vancouver? Every year. New jersey and a logo. This one's kind of a cheat, to be honest. I'm going with Ottawa, who are very likely to come up with a new logo and a new jersey over the next, I'll say, year. They were going to rebrand, and then I think with the whole Carlson thing and the rebuild and everything being a tire fire, they didn't want to rebrand during the tire fire. They wanted to wait until they were coming out of it and have that rebrand be part of something new. And this feeling of we're renewing the team, we're renewing ourselves, and isn't this exciting? Aren't you guys glad you're coming along for the ride? So there will be a New Jersey logo, and I can't think of a team that needs a new one more than Ottawa, to be honest. There will be people who say Nashville. I would say Nashville, they could use a blue jersey rather than the gold one. I get why it's gold, marigold. But the logo I like in Nashville, so I can't say that both would need to be changed. A new building. Now, initially I went with the Islanders, but the Islanders are getting a new building. And so that whole Barclays and that whole mess is going to be dealt with and done and finished. So I'm going with Arizona. Now, I'm not saying that Gila River is bad. I'm saying that the whole thing with Glendale has kind of been a misadventure since they went there. This team needs a permanent home that we don't have to worry about from year to year. And Maruello, as the new owner, his job is going to be fixing this issue. Whether it's figuring out a way to make it work at Gila River and signing a 10-year lease so everybody gets quiet about it, or finding that new home for them, whether it's in downtown Phoenix, whether it's in Tempe, whether it's wherever it is in Arizona. See, the team's name being changed from Phoenix to Arizona tells me that the NHL is saying, all right, find a place in Arizona that works. That's it. It doesn't have to be Phoenix. It can be any city in Arizona. Just find a spot in this state that works. And the success of the Vegas Golden Knights, I think, only emboldens the NHL that this can work in the desert under the right circumstances. So they need a new building, or they need to make this work in the building they're in and have a long-term lease. No more injuries. Honorable mention to St. Louis. Honorable mention to Colorado. And Toronto is getting in there now too. But I'm going with Pittsburgh because, of course, it feels like every game Pittsburgh's getting guys back and losing others. And it's to the point where I barely even report on it anymore. Cahoon got concussed. Yeah, it's another one. It's another one. It's sort of like, and I hate to say this, but it's sort of like when you're dealing with a bunch of kids and they get hurt regularly, and eventually it's like, now what? So you hear the crying, and you're like, oh, all right, so little Billy got hurt again. All right, what'd you do now? Uh-huh. All right, that's too bad. And it's kind of getting that way with Pittsburgh, where it's like, oh, another injury. I'll pretend I'm surprised. The good news for Pittsburgh is, honestly, they've come through it very well. They've played very well despite the amazing amount of injuries they're going through. The bad news is it just doesn't seem to end. It feels like this just keeps going and going and going with Pittsburgh. So hopefully, having it on the board means that's it. Which team needs to win their first cup? So there's some rules to this. I'm going to put Nashville up, and then I'm going to explain why I'm putting needs. Notice I'm saying needs. Nashville right now sits outside the playoffs. They have a number of players who are in their prime years or a little past their prime years. Nashville needs to get this together and win a Stanley Cup, or they are going to be in a San Jose type territory where they may have to do a rebuild. And so that's why I have them as needs. Vancouver and Buffalo absolutely are in need of their first Stanley Cups. But both Buffalo and Vancouver have a lot of young talent that's going to grow into it. And should they win a Stanley Cup, Buffalo and Vancouver fans will be absolutely stunned by that. But for Nashville, it's kind of like they need this now. So that improbable run in 2017, as much fun as that was, now they need to win the Cup. And they're not in a position where it looks like they're going to. So it gets more and more desperate for them. Which team needs to recapture 2018 and 2019? I mean, that spirit, that luck on some level, and just that overall feeling of we can do this, it's Calgary. I don't understand what's happened with Calgary. I don't understand how they go from 2018 where they're middle of the road, 2019 they're fantastic, and now we're into 2020 and they're in the playoffs. They're 1 point out of first, but they're also only 3 points clear of missing the playoffs. So for Calgary, they really need to figure this out. They need to get that magic back, get the purple Gatorade. I don't know, but Johnny Gaudreau, Sean Monahan, Elias Lindholm, they need to get this magic back together that they had last season, and they need to make this work, because for the Flames, these guys are all in their prime, and this now's the time. So they're still only 1 point out of first place. If they can get a run going, they can definitely pull themselves out way ahead of their division again, and then we'll see what happens in the playoffs. But they need to recapture whatever they had going for them last year. Which team needs to improve their road record? So I looked through all the road records, and yeah, it comes out where I thought it was, and that's Philadelphia. Philadelphia has 7 more wins at home than they have on the road. They've won, I believe it's 10 out of 25 on the road this year. And that could very well be what sinks them out of the playoffs. I know, if Philadelphia was in the West, they'd be in the playoffs, but we don't exist in that universe where that's the thing, where they could just bump somebody in the West out of a playoff spot because they belong there. Toronto, right now, would be in a playoff spot in the West. They'd be 1 point out of first in the Pacific as well. And I get why people are angry about that, but you can only deal the hand you're dealt, or only play the hand you're dealt. And for Philadelphia, the road record's been a problem. At home, they're absolutely fantastic. Agreed, 17-4-4. But on the road, 10-13-2 isn't going to get it done. So, yeah, for Philadelphia, that's what they need to improve. And who needs to improve their home record? Well, I gave it away. I give it away with the fact that I'm wearing a Montreal Canadiens jersey. And I'm wearing the Centennial, which has all the Stanley Cup wins on it. And their record at home has been a problem. Now, I know Montreal fans are going to say, well, we need to beat Detroit. Touché. But it's more than that. They need to be better at home. I remember when the Forum was a place nobody wanted to play. When Montreal at home, good luck beating them there. They need to get back to being that team. And I don't know if it's a matter of some kind of an edge that they're not playing with or what it is, but at home they're not as good as they are on the road. I had thought about putting up Winnipeg, but Winnipeg's difference between their road and home record isn't as wide as it is for Montreal because of Winnipeg's most recent back-to-back losses on the road. Otherwise, it might be Winnipeg that's on the board. Both Canadian teams, both of them out of the playoffs. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Like I said, a couple of days off, do some fun video stuff, nice casual kind of videos that I do during the summer kind of thing. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happen upon this video, and hey, rest of my day's wide open now, so maybe I'll throw something up on the Entertainment Guy channel. Maybe I won't. I don't know. I'll figure something out, but it's kind of nice to have a couple of days to sort of chill. Thank you guys for all your support, for helping this channel reach the point that it's at now. And again, let me know your thoughts, and hey, give me a category of your own, something that I don't have on the board. And importantly to me in this was, don't use the same team twice. I wanted to make sure I didn't use the same team twice, and I came up with categories that I thought these teams were leading in. Let me know your own categories and thoughts in the comment section as always, and hey, I will talk to you again soon.